Think Devontae Smith winning the Heisman Trophy as a wide receiver is impressive? Wait until you hear about the time a kicker won NFL MVP. I'm Connor Grohl, and this is Slept On Sports, the podcast that takes interesting, lesser-known sports stories you could say have been slept on, and brings them back into the light. Today, we head back to 1982 and kicker Mark Moseley's MVP season for the then-called Washington Redskins. This is a story that really could have only taken place in 1982, and that's for a few reasons. But the most important reason is the strike that happened in the middle of the season. After the first 2 weeks of the regular season, the NFL players went on a 57-day strike, which resulted in the cancellation of weeks 3 through 10. The NFL Players Association wanted player salaries to be based off a percentage of overall league revenues, specifically 55%. The owners were not interested in this proposal, and so the strike began. Eventually, the players revolted against their own union, accepting a deal which included severance packages, an increase in salaries, and bonuses for veteran players. They would not receive a salary cap based on a percentage of total revenues until 1993. However, the agreement did save the season. Weeks 11 through 17 were played as normal, leading to a 9-game season. To compensate, a 16-team playoff was created with no byes because of the shorter overall schedule. This is important for our story, because with a 9-game regular season, there are fewer opportunities for any individual offensive or defensive player to really separate themselves from the pack and mount a strong MVP campaign. On the flip side, having fewer games actually makes it easier for kickers to have outstanding seasons, since there are less opportunities for them to miss kicks. And while we're on the subject of missed kicks, let's also note that there were a lot more of them back in 1982 than there are now. In the 2020 regular season, kickers made 84.6% of their field goal attempts. Back in 1982, that number was just 68.2%, which was actually an all-time record at the time. Kickers have also improved their power to go along with that increase in accuracy. In 2020, NFL kickers made 63% of their 168 attempts from 50 yards or farther. In 1982, they went just 10 of 40 or 25% from that distance. Truth be told, in the modern era, it's probably impossible for a kicker to win MVP. Even if someone like Justin Tucker was able to go perfect for an entire season, the best kickers in the league only miss a few kicks a year anyways, so it might not even be enough to break into the MVP conversation. In 1982, it was simply a different ballgame, and that sets up well for Mark Moseley. Moseley was taken in the 14th round of the 1970 NFL Draft by the Philadelphia Eagles, but he ended up joining Washington in 1974. He made the Pro Bowl in 1979, and by 1982, his age 34 season, he was the highest paid kicker in the league. Interestingly, after struggling in the 1980 and 81 seasons, he was almost cut in the preseason of 1982, but he did end up making the team and was a fan favorite. Washington finished the season 8-1, tied for the best record in the NFL and first place in the NFC by a full 2 games. They would also go on to win the Super Bowl. Typically, this would mean that Washington's starting quarterback or running back would be a favorite for the MVP award. However, Washington only had an average offense, ranking 12th in scoring, while they had the number 1 defense in the league, which allowed just 14 points per game. Quarterback Joe Theismann would receive a few stray MVP votes, but his season, 2,033 yards, 13 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions, was far from spectacular. This leads us back to Mark Moseley. In 1982, Moseley went 20 of 21 on field goals, leading the league in both made field goals and field goal percentage, and missing only his final kick of the regular season. Only 4 other kickers in the league made 15 or more field goals, and all of them missed at least 5 times. By making his first 20 field goals of the year, Moseley set an NFL record of 23 consecutive made field goals dating back to his 1981 season. And Moseley wasn't just piling on garbage time kicks either. He was coming up clutch. In Week 1 at Philadelphia, he kicked what would be his season-long, a 48-yarder, as time expired to send the game to overtime, and then kicked the game winner in OT to cap off a 37-34 win. Later, in Week 14, he scored all of his team's points in a 12-7 win at the Cardinals, and then the following week, Week 15, he kicked the game winner with 4 seconds left to beat the Giants 15-14, clinch a spot in the playoffs, and set a new record with his 21st consecutive made field goal. He would make 2 more the following week. All of this made Moseley a leading MVP candidate, despite the fact that he actually missed 3 extra points on the year. He finished 16 of 19 on his PATs, none of which were blocked, and only the Jets had a worse extra point percentage in the league. I think it's probably time to address the million-dollar question. Should Mark Moseley have won the 1982 NFL MVP award? And unfortunately, I don't think so. In my opinion, the award should have gone to the quarterback for the San Diego Chargers, Dan Fouts. Fouts' Chargers went 6-3 and were the highest scoring team in the NFL. Fouts was incredible. He threw for 2,883 yards, which led the league and was 320 yards per game, and also threw for 17 touchdowns, which was tied for the league high. His mark of 320 passing yards per game put him on a 5,125-yard pace for a 16-game season. That would have been the first 5,000-yard passing season in league history, and also the 4th consecutive year that Fouts would have set the single-season passing yards record. That mark of 5,125 passing yards would not have been eclipsed until Drew Brees threw for 5,476 yards in 2011. It would also still rank as the 8th highest single-season passing yards total in league history. Fouts' leading receiver, Wes Chandler, had 1,032 yards and 9 touchdowns in just 8 games. I know he missed 1 regular season game, but on a 16-game pace, that would have given him the league's first and only 2,000-yard receiving season. Ultimately, Moseley edged out Fouts in one of the closest MVP races in league history. Out of a possible 84 votes, Moseley got 35, or 42% of the overall vote, while Dan Fouts came up just short with 33 votes. And just like that, a kicker was named MVP of the NFL. It has never happened since, and in all likelihood will never happen again. To show how a 9-game regular season benefits kickers, I'll share with you that Moseley went just 4 for 8 on field goals during Washington's playoff run. Moseley would stay with Washington until 1986, when he was cut mid-season, finishing his career that year with the Cleveland Browns. He would never make another Pro Bowl. If you enjoyed the show, you can show your support by subscribing, leaving a rating and review, and following Slept On Sports on Twitter at slept_on_sports. I've been Connor Grohl. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.